for students. All right. Looks like we have one so far. And we'll just give it a couple minutes for students to start rolling in. And welcome, guys. Thanks for coming to Iowa State's pre-health conference virtually. Right now, you're in the OT graduate students panel. So if you're not OT, I can link the website in the chat. That way you guys can get redirected. I'll get that up real quick.
My name is Zaina, and I'm one of the team outreach chairs. If you're here right now, that means you're in the physical therapy.
Well, we'll give it another minute and then
So if this isn't
we'll get started.
you can go back to our website and to find the appropriate group. So just a quick rundown of how this is going to go. I'll have the students introduce themselves by stating their names, education.
All right.
After introductions, I'll ask one or two questions from the ones that you guys have sent us.
So I think we'll get started. Okay. So my name's Sarah Lazowski. I will be moderating this panel, and this is the graduate student pre-health panel. This will consist of 3 graduate students, and we'll just ask a few questions. If you guys have any questions, there is a Q&A option. You guys can just type in your questions there, and then they'll pop up and we can answer those for you. We're just going to start by having the panelists introduce themselves. So I think we'll just start with Callie.
All righty. I am Callie. I am an 01 student at Drake University, which is a doctorate program for occupational therapy. I went to undergrad at Iowa State, graduated in 2020. Years kind of seem like a blur right now. Anything else that you would want me to share, Sarah, about myself?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
All right. Kelsey, you want to go next?
Yeah, so my name is Kelsey. I am an 03 at Drake, same as Callie. I'm in my 3rd and final year of the program. And I also am an Iowa State graduate. I graduated in 2017 from Iowa State, so.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right, Yulia.
Hello, so my name is Julia, and I am a 2nd-year master's student at Colorado State University. We have a master's program right now, but we're actually now transitioning to an OTD program. And I went to undergrad in North Carolina on the beach. I miss the ocean, but it's also lovely out here. And I graduated in 2016, and I'm now on my last semester of this program, and then we'll just have one more summer field work and then take the boards.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So we'll just hop right into the questions. So it looks like we have one in the chat that we'll start with, and that is, were you ever unsure about going from undergrad to doctorate? So we'll just go in the same order. Callie, you want to start?
Yeah, I would say that I definitely went back and forth with it. But at first I started thinking master's, and then I heard a lot more about how Drake was, or sorry, not Drake, OT was kind of switching towards going doctorate route, like PT, and they've been back and forth on that. So I kind of just decided I don't really want to go back to school later. So I just wanted to knock out the doctorate right away and get all my schooling done for occupational therapy.
Understandable. Thank you. All right, Kelsey.
So I actually took a gap year in between undergrad and grad school. So for me, it was a little different because I didn't go straight from undergrad to the doctoral program. So I was more so concerned just about getting back into school in general. And especially because, I mean, I feel like I shouldn't say this, but also I feel like complete honesty is the best thing. There were classes at Iowa State that I like just they didn't interest me, so I like didn't feel like I wanted to I didn't want to put in the work for them. And so I was like, well, how am I going to do at a doctorate level program where like it's going to be so much harder? But like the content interested me so much that like it really is not that hard to sit down and get myself to study. So, and it's been a while since I started, so I don't really remember if I was nervous, but I feel like if I was, looking back, there wasn't really a need to be.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right,
All right,
Julia.
Thank you. I guess.
So I can't speak to the doctorate side specifically, but I kind of feel like there are a mix of benefits from going straight from undergrad to school and taking a gap year. I worked for a couple years actually as a preschool teacher because I really want to do pediatric OT. So that was a really valuable experience, just getting exposure to like what typical development looks like in all those different ages. So that was a really cool experience, and getting the like team side, like how to work with families and how to work with fellow teachers. So I really valued that experience, and I'm glad that I did that. But then I feel like also going straight from undergrad, you can kind of take advantage of that. You're used to being in school and you're used to sitting down and studying and you're used to doing all that stuff. So you can just kind of like ride that straight into grad school. So I definitely feel like there's a mix of pros and cons from going like straight into a program or taking a little bit of time to like work.
All right, thank you. Next we have, did you ever debate another career path? For example, PT. All right, and Callie, you can start.
Yes, I definitely did. So going into college, undergrad, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. Knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. So I actually didn't go the pre-OT route at Iowa State. I was community and public health. Thought maybe I wanted to do nursing, but I hate needles, so that didn't work out. And then I just did some shadowing at On With Life. So I did shadowing with OT and PT and kind of got a feel for what I wanted to do. And I would say that that is probably your best way to figure out what setting and what career path you really want to go into.
All right, thank you, Kelsey.
So I also considered something else. I went into undergrad like pretty confident that I was going to be a doctor. I was like pre-med all the way, and then one semester in, I was like, "Woo, maybe not." And then I switched to pre-PA, and I was that for a while, and then I was like, I still don't think that's really what I want. And then I shadowed at Mary Greeley, which for anybody not from Iowa State is the hospital in Ames. And I shadowed speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. And up to that point, I had honestly like never even heard of OT. But I shadowed and I was like, this lady's like helping this woman put her socks on. Like, that's kind of cool. So from there, like I just kept shadowing, and then I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do.
All right, great. And then Julia?
So I am normally a very indecisive person, but I wanted to do OT actually since I was a senior in high school. Very strange for me to stay a path, but I kind of learned about it through, I had a cousin, my cousin Josie has Down syndrome, so kind of got like a little bit of exposure to OT because of that. And I have an aunt who's a speech pathologist and another aunt who's really good friends with an OT. So it was always kind of like on the outskirts, just kind of heard of it. And I did some like early education internships in high school, and then in undergrad did a couple summers with a muscular dystrophy camp and different things like that. And I was just like, yep, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to enable everyone to do as much as they can, no matter their like age and disability level. And so, yeah, I kind of just always knew it was what I wanted to do. And in undergrad, I did exercise science and psychology, because I had heard that was like a good kind of base general foundation for going into OT. And yeah, I did some outpatient peds shadowing, and yeah, I'm very happy to be here and studying OT. And like Kelsey was saying, it's surprisingly easy to sit down and make yourself study because everything's so engaging. So it's been really great.
Well, thanks for sharing your journey, guys. Next we have, how do you manage financials while in school, and are you able to work? All right, so Callie?
So I guess I kind of had a unique situation with this since COVID kind of started while I was finishing undergrad. I was doing an internship for my specific major and that got canceled. So I just started working in February and I didn't start classes until September. So I got to work and save up a lot of money and I live with my parents, but I know like a lot of my classmates, I have a classmate that works 30 hours a week on top of schooling. I obviously wouldn't recommend that, but I think it's definitely doable to have a job throughout grad school and save up money.
All right, thank you. And Kelsey?
Like I said, I took a gap year, although it didn't really seem like my job really helped me save for grad school. Not saying that like don't take a gap year for financial reasons, because it did help a little bit, but I will be completely honest, I've taken out a lot of loans. That's it. Drake specifically is a very expensive school, and I wouldn't have been able to pay for it without it. And there are some of my classmates would like take out as much as they were approved for, and then they would live off the extra from their loans. I never did that during my time until I started field work, when now I don't have really time for a job. But when I was still in the classroom, I worked 20 hours a week, and kind of I made it work. It kind of helped. I had a job that I could do homework at. So like that kind of obviously helped, because it might have been, I was working, but I could still get stuff done that I needed to for school.
Thank you, Kelsey. And Julia?
Yeah, so I, same with Kelsey, did not save money. Surprisingly, not a lot of money to be made as a preschool teacher. So did not really save. Took out some loans for CSU. And I've been able to work throughout the program. I'd say having a job where you can kind of decide, like where there's some flexibility with how many hours to work, because like first semester, we only have a few classes, you're kind of just getting into things. I worked more, but then like our second semester is really heavy, hands-on. You have like 2 full-time labs, 3 lectures, I think. So then I cut back for that one. And then luckily with CSU, because obviously I was from out of state, but with CSU, you can get in-state tuition your second year. And it's one of the more affordable programs, but it's a master's program, so it's still very expensive. But that definitely helped. And then now I have a position through the department that actually gives you kind of a monthly pay like normal, but then also you get like tuition back. So that's been really helpful. And it's a job where you can create your own hours. And now with COVID, it's virtual. So it's been really doable to, I've had a job in some form throughout the whole program.
Thank you. And then we have, how many graduate schools did you guys apply to?
How do you go about getting?
So I applied to 3. I applied to Drake first, and then KU and Belmont. And I really wanted to go to Drake, and I got my interview there first and got in. And so then when I got asked to do my other interviews, I decided personally it wasn't worth the money for me to go and do the interviews there. So I just committed to Drake at that point.
Great, thank you. All right, Kelsey?
I'm probably not the best example for this question, because I only applied to Drake. It was like I had a new boyfriend and I was not willing to like leave. He's not my husband, so like it worked out. But I wouldn't recommend choosing grad schools off of a boy that you just met. But so I only applied to Drake, but luckily I got in. So
Love to hear that that worked out for you. All right, Julia.
I applied to 5 programs, which is a little much. We recommend usually like 3 when we're talking to prospective students. So I applied to 2 in-state programs, 3 out-of-state ones. Actually, tragically ended up putting my deposit down for a doctorate program in Las Vegas. But CSU had always been my top pick. So as soon as I heard back from them, I was like, well, they can go on a cruise or whatever it is they do with all these lost deposits. So I chose CSU, applied to 5 programs. Irresponsibly decided to not go to my in-state program, but I do not regret it because it's been great out here. But I did 5, which is, pretty expensive and time consuming, but I would recommend probably like 3 programs at least.
Well, I'm glad to hear you like it. Next we have, did you find the application process difficult? Was it competitive and what helped you stand out? All right, Callie.
So I wouldn't necessarily say the process of applications is difficult. You go through OTCAS. I'm not sure how many are familiar with that, but I made sure to really go through and get the hang of it before applications opened, just so I was familiar and that I could get all my applications submitted right away and give myself the best chance. As for competitiveness, I feel like it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, you go to the interview and it seems intimidating because you're all dressed up. And now I don't know how it is because interviews this year were over Zoom and I'm sure it was much different, but you mean you're in a room full of really smart individuals who have all of, the same characteristics or accomplishments as you. And I think it's intimidating, but I don't know how well I can speak on the competitiveness aspect of it. Obviously it is because there's so many schools to apply to and can get turned down, you can get put on a wait list, but I guess that's really all I can say to that.
All right, thanks, Callie. And then Kelsey, you're up next.
So it's been almost 4 years since I applied, because I applied almost like a full year before I started my program. So I don't like 100% remember the process, and I'm not going to claim that I do. I do remember it was slightly time consuming to put all of my classes that I had ever taken in there. But yeah, as far as like the competitiveness, I don't know I made sure, like, again, I don't know what they're actually looking for, but I made sure like to, have other people read my personal statement and, make sure that like the things that I had control over, like my GPA was already said and done, my GRE score was said and done, but the things that I had control over in the application, I like made sure were like top notch for like what they could be.
Thanks, Kelsey. And then Julia.
Yeah, I would say definitely really take your time on each part of the application and make sure that you have every component in, because there's OTCAS, then there's usually a departmental one. And then like for CSU, there's also like a separate prerequisite form. So just making sure that you have everything in on time and that you've really taken your time with filling all of that out, because I think that really shows. And for CSU, because obviously I can't speak to really what other programs kind of relied on strengths-wise, but I would say to really let this passion for what you want to do shine through, and really talk to those experiences that you've had that are related, because CSU doesn't have a lot, like some requirements, like they're actually dropping the GRE for the OTD, and they really try to focus, I think, on like the whole picture of the student and not just like, oh, what was your GPA and your major? Because it's actually really cool. In my cohort, we have such a mix of backgrounds and experiences and majors. So we have like math majors and English majors, and it's a really cool mix. And I think they really try to take like your experiences and kind of your whole, like, why do you want to do this? I feel like that's kind of the main focus of CSU.
Thanks, Julia. And then we have, what is one thing you wish you knew as an undergrad when looking for potential grad schools? We'll start off with Callie.
That's a difficult question. I guess, I mean, personally, I wish I would have had something like this to run me through what all the process looks like. I don't know what, I guess I just almost needed someone to hold my hand through it. And I wish someone would have told me, like, don't be scared to reach out to the older people that I've already gone through the process. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for that one.
Thanks, Callie. All right, Kelsey.
I think what I wish I would have known is I wish I would have like taken the time to research school specific requirements, because I had it in my head that like because I was on the OT track, like I was automatically going to be qualified to apply to like any OT school. And then like I never took an ethics class at Iowa State because it wasn't required for pre-OT, and then a lot of OT programs require an ethics class. So that kind of like ruled out some schools automatically for me. So I wish I would have like taken the time to actually research schools and look at their specific requirements before I graduated.
Thank you. And then Julia.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because I had a similar experience because for exercise science, like you could take different anatomy and physiologies. And like one of them, they were broken anatomy and physiology part 1 and 2. So you do it over the course of a year. And for exercise science, you could do kind of the, I guess, not as rigorous anatomy that didn't have a lab both semesters, but then the programs did require that. So I had to, just ask through the department and those professors, like if I could take that other one, and it wasn't a problem. But just making sure you don't just follow that specific track. And then the courses that you may not need to take, some schools required physics. And I had a couple friends who wanted to do OT that were like, you have to take physics. And I was like, no, I have triple checked and the programs do not require physics. I'm so bad at it. I don't want to take it. So really glad that I did not have to do that. Because yeah, programs are always a little bit different with what they require. And I would say something else I wish I had known was maybe going to sessions for those schools, because you can get a lot from the websites and researching, but I feel like it's really cool to have an insider perspective of more like the culture and what the experience really is like at the program. Because like right now I do info sessions for CSU, and I'm always like, wow, I didn't do that for any of the like universities that I applied to, and it would have been really helpful, I think, to get that extra insight. So yeah.
Thanks, guys. Next we have, what is the best way to study for the GRE test and how early should I start?
So I had GRE books. I had them passed on from my sister because she went to PA school. And I just kind of sat down, and I think I started studying 3 months in advance because I was in undergrad classes. I knew I wasn't going to actually have much time, or, kind of taking time away from the classes you're already in to study for a different test that doesn't seem as important because you're not getting your GPA for that right away, if that makes sense, was hard for me. So I just made sure that I allotted, an hour a day of the week to studying for the GRE. And I found using the test booklets and the study booklets to be the most helpful for me.
Thanks, Callie. All right, Kelsey, you're up next.
I also had a like test booklet thing that I studied from, and I use that primarily for like the math section of it. I had an app on my phone for I don't know what the exact word of like name of it is called, but like the vocabulary basically section of it. Um, because I knew like personally that was going to be the hardest section for me. So like it was something that I always had it on my phone. And if I had, 10 free minutes, I could hop on there and learn a few new words. And um, I I don't remember exactly how early in advance I started studying for it, but I think I did it a couple months, but like did it really slowly. Like took those like 10 to 15 minutes on that app like a few times a week. And then as it got closer, I studied more and more. But
Thanks, Kelsey. All right, Julia?
So I do not remember how long I spent studying for the GRE. I took it twice. Didn't make like a huge difference the second time, but a little bit. And I studied mostly, I used the GRE booklets also and focused on the math because that's always been my weak suit. So I went through the booklet and used a lot of Khan Academy, which sounds like a little young to be, like it's a little young to be using, but it was super helpful, especially if you haven't taken a math course in a while, because I had only had to take, I think, statistics and a college algebra class. So it had been a while. So just getting a refresher on like those basic formulas and things like that was really helpful, because I do well with like reading and getting some visuals behind that. And then for the vocab, actually, I found listening to a vocab podcast super helpful. There's this individual, and I was trying to look and find what it was, but he goes over common GRE words in a podcast in a really helpful format. And so that was great because I had kind of a commute at the time. And so I would just listen to that in the car. And I found that super helpful for that section. So yeah, I would say like just study a little bit every day for a little while until the test, because I think that's more helpful than trying to like cram on it all at once because it's a lot.
Thank you. And then next we have, what is your favorite part about like the school portion of OT in grad school? And then what is something that we can look forward to? And then Callie, you can start.
I guess just my favorite part is how interesting all of the courses are to me. Like, I think Kelsey, you might have touched on this already, that undergrad, like you just have some classes where you're like, it's just really not for me and I have no interest in taking this class. But when you get to grad school, all of the classes are so interesting and it's finally what you want to do with the rest of your life, and it just makes learning fun. And like next week I have a class on transfers, and like that's something I'm super excited about because I've never had anything like that before. And just a lot of the hands-on courses I think is something that I look forward to, at least, and I would think that everyone else would too.
Thanks, Callie. Next we have Kelsey.
there are a lot of things that I enjoy more than I thought I would. I think the first thing that popped into my mind is like I loved getting to explore all of the areas. Like going in, I was like, I'm definitely going to be a pediatric OT, 100%. And like each class that I took, I was like, oh, maybe that. Like the first day of my neuro class, our neuro professor stood up and she was like, I failed my first neuro exam in OT school. And I was like, oh, shoot, like that's going to be me too. And I'm never going to do neuro. And then I took neuro and I was like, whoo, I could really see myself doing that. So I loved getting to see all the different areas. And then as Callie was saying, kind of the hands-on, like I feel in undergrad, it was just so much, which like understandably, but it was like so much lecture and it was, here's this topic and here's just facts about it. Whereas like in OT school, it would be like, here's this thing, but let's show you a real world example of like when you're going to see that, or, oh, we're in our pediatric class, we can put a kid in a swing. Well, how about you get in the swing and you see how it is? So just kind of getting like to really actually experience the stuff instead of just sitting in lecture.
Yeah, I agree with all of that 100%. I love all the hands-on courses and definitely had the same experience of like, ooh, I'm interested in all these areas now, because I didn't really know like what does OT look like in like mental health, for example. And I had field work at Denver Health in the inpatient psych unit. And I was like, this is so cool. This is such a cool area. And like mental health impacts all that we do. So why don't we focus on it more? And things like sleep and OT, another thing that I'm like, we don't talk about it that much, but like sleep again impacts all the things you want to do every day. So many cool emerging areas. And we had like pelvic floor OTs coming in and like dual OT and all these cool areas that I'd never heard of. So that's been really cool. And another part that I love about the program is the cohort. My peers have been so supportive. Everyone I say is like very internally like self-competitive. So it's not like some programs where I feel like you kind of compete against each other. Like I had a couple of friends who went through nursing school and they were like, it wasn't for us. And everyone is very competitive kind of against each other. And I feel like OT programs are very supportive and collaborative. Like everyone's always helping each other out and supporting each other. And it's been really fun. And I know that like the people in this cohort are people I'm definitely going to be friends with forever. And so that's been a really cool part too.
That's great. Thank you. And then we have, are there any graduate program scholarships? And if so, where can you find them? All right, Callie.
So I actually don't know much about that. I don't know if Kelsey and Julia could maybe talk more about it if they know any information.
Yeah, if you guys know, you can just jump in.
I have never gotten an OT scholarship. I'm going to say that first, just like off the bat. I do know Drake specifically, we get like a weekly email and they like have links to scholarships that we can apply for. But like, so when I started at Drake, we weren't accredited yet. So it was kind of hard for us to get scholarships because like, you know, we weren't I wasn't attending an accredited OT program. So then by the time it got farther into it, like there were some program but I don't know, it just never really worked out. So I personally never even applied to one, but there are some out there. So it's not like it's impossible. It's just I don't think anybody in my class, my cohort, even had one.
Thanks, Kelsey. Julia, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I was able to get just a little bit through the university. So CSU, you can apply for different scholarships through CSU. It's not directly through the department, and you can do that pretty much every semester. So that's one option for here. And then some of the fieldworks have scholarships. So for my final fieldwork, it's at an early childhood center. And I was able to get a scholarship for that because it's an application and interview process. And then this graduate position that I have, but those are pretty limited. And for outside scholarships, you typically have to have completed 1 year of OT school, which is the unfortunate thing. It's hard to go into a program and know how much help you're going to get because usually you have to complete 1 year for like AOTA or AOTF scholarships. But those are out there. Once you're in your second year, you can apply for those.
Well, thanks for the information, guys. Next we have, if you could redo anything differently in your undergrad, would you? And what would it be? All right, and anyone can jump in whenever you feel free.
I feel like I would have taken the medical abbreviations class more seriously when I took it. And I would have searched more for classes that would help me for OT specifically. I know looking back now, I would have no idea what that means. But like a lot of Drake has like a pre-OT program that like feeds directly into their OT program. And so I didn't go the pre-OT route. I don't know if I missed out on classes, but they took a lot of courses that they used a lot of the terminology and stuff that I just am kind of lacking on. And I think that if I would have taken that class, especially very seriously, I would have benefited from it.
All right, thanks, Callie. Kelsey, Julia, anything to add?
I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. I just wish I would have taken more time to like look to see what programs needed. And again, this feels like something I shouldn't say, but like I feel like I should have tried harder in all of my classes. Like I mean, I obviously did well enough to get into grad school, but like I was not like my GPA, I was not competitive for like my application. So I wish I would have like, especially that first semester, which I realize all of you are past your first semester, but like actually putting in the time because it's so different than high school and all that stuff. And which I know all of you know, but like just putting in more time to actually like retain everything. And yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right, Julia.
Yeah, I'd say definitely, check the prereqs and try to get those in, because I think I was able to get all of the like OT prereqs in with doing a couple of summer classes, which one was the medical terminology class. But definitely doable. And then it just makes your life easier. You have them behind you. You don't have to stress about them. And then, not waiting too long to apply, because sometimes they expire. So that's unfortunate. Like for grad schools for OT programs. And I would say definitely my favorite experiences of undergrad were those like summer camp experiences that I did. And so looking back, I wish I would have done that more and not been like, all right, I'm in undergrad, it's summer, time to have fun, go to the beach. I wish I had done more of those kind of experiences, because they were so cool. I mean, they were helpful for the OT process, but just really cool experiences in general. So like take advantage of that time that you have in undergrad.
Perfect. And next we have, what does the average like day to week look like as an OT graduate student?
So I think for us three, it'll probably look all a little different. But for me right now, this semester looks pretty similar to my last semester. I'm pretty much in class or studying or doing homework every day from about 8 to 4. Like my Mondays are really heavy. I have class almost straight from 8 to 4. And then the other days I have some breaks. Fridays, we don't have classes at all. But yeah, it's pretty much like an 8 to 4 job with classes, kind of, I would say. And then halfway through, so I guess March, I'll have field work, and then that's pretty much going in and shadowing per se for 8 to 4 every day for a week.
All right, thanks, Callie. And then Kelsey.
So Callie and I go to the same school. So I did most of my actual like classroom work pre-COVID. But it was the same. I mean, basically 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday, with the occasional like community event on Fridays. But I finished up all of my classwork last May. And since then I have been on field work. So I've completed 2 12-week long programs. And right now I'm doing my capstone. I am actually at Iowa State right now. So I work 8 to 5 every day in an office on campus. So I'm at that point where like I don't go home and have homework at this point. It's just like the duties that I have while I'm on campus.
Thanks, Kelsey. And then Julia.
Sorry, I was not unmuting. I would agree with the time. It's pretty heavy. I feel like in undergrad, they kind of say when you go into undergrad, like, oh, for every hour of lecture, you'll have like this many hours of reading or homework. And maybe y'all are better students than I am. But in undergrad, I feel like it did not take me that much time to read or do assignments outside of class. But in grad school, it is really that much. Like there is so much reading that you have to get done, and it's all really interesting, but it's a lot. So when you see that you have like, oh, it's a 12 or 13 credit semester, like that's not much. It's a lot of outside stuff. So definitely don't underestimate that. And our schedule kind of varies versus on semester. And then of course with the OTD program, it'll look different. But like now for my program, I have embedded field work. So we usually have one day off to get that done throughout the semester and then have 2 full-time summer field works. And the days kind of vary depending on your semester and how heavy they are. Like right now, I pretty much have packed Mondays and Tuesdays, but then like Wednesday's just one lab, and then Thursday and Friday is kind of like if you have field work and to just work at your own pace on those classes. So that's helpful, but also hard because you have to make sure you're like getting everything done and like really managing your own time well. And but this semester is my favorite right now because we have like a cultural class. So we're learning how to work with like individuals of different cultures. And I have my pediatrics class and my adolescence class. So yeah, always very interesting, but very busy.
Thank you. And then next we have, do you have any suggestions for clubs or extracurriculars, or what clubs or extracurriculars were most beneficial to you now in grad school?
So I started out trying to do it freshman year, and then I kind of fell out of it. But I think the pre-OT club is really beneficial because I know like Drake goes and meets with them, other schools go and meet with them and talk to the club about what their process looks like. And then I think just involvement in general and learning those leadership skills and how to work as a team is important. And then some clubs on campus too, like Up Till Dawn with St. Jude, Dance Marathon, those are raising money for a cause that, you know, you could be working with pediatrics after OT, and that looks good on your resume too. So I don't think you can really go wrong with clubs, but I think that getting involved directly with pre-OT, pre-PT, whatever you're going directly in will be really beneficial.
Thanks, Callie. All right, Kelsey?
I was not as involved as I think I thought I was. Like thinking back, I'm like, oh, I wasn't really involved in as much. But I did do the pre-OT club as well, which I found really helpful. If any of you are in the pre-OT club, Drake is actually having a session in March and I will be there again. So you get to see my face again. But yeah, I think that was like the most helpful to me because we like actually got to hear from schools and like hear what, you know, what schools were doing and what they required and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, like other things like just like I did Dance Marathon, I did other things that didn't necessarily like help me OT specifically, but like showed that like, oh look, I'm involved. So yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right, Julia?
Yeah, I did not do a pre-OT club, but I did some kind of, I don't even remember the name of it now, but some kind of like pre-allied health profession club sort of thing. And that's actually what introduced me to that muscular dystrophy camp that I loved so much. So I think those related experiences are super helpful. But then I would also say, like doing things outside of that, just kind of following something you're interested in, because like OT is all about, you know, helping people do like what's meaningful to them. And I think that, I mean, I can't speak to all programs, but I think that OT programs appreciate when you do have some of those outside things. Like I remember for one of the prereqs or application, it was like, what is the course you took that you took just for fun, just because it interested you and didn't count towards anything? And I had done creative writing because I'm a huge writing nerd. And like right now I'm taking a pottery class through the community that I really enjoy. And so I think they like related things are awesome. Definitely do that. But I would say if you also have time to pursue some outside things, I think that really shows that like kind of helps with that like roundedness. So yeah.
Thanks. And then you guys can also get involved in the pre-health conference too next year if you would like. You can apply for an exec position. We'll have that stuff soon on Instagram and stuff. But moving forward, our next question is, have you always known that you wanted to be an occupational therapist, or was there other professions that kind of piqued your interest, and what made you choose?
So I guess I kind of touched on it earlier, but I talked about I want to do nursing. But I also had always wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. And I thought that kind of thinking about the blend between nursing and teaching, it's the healthcare field, and OT does a lot of teaching and helping people kind of readjust to life. So I felt like those kind of blended together and kind of put me to where I am at now.
Great, thanks, Callie.
I did not always want to be an OT. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't really know what it was until I shadowed. But I think something that's kind of common with OTs, not always, but I think it's a lot of times they know they want to do something in healthcare, but can't quite figure out what it is. I was 7 when my little sister was born, and I like watched them give my mom the epidural. And like ever since then, my mom was like, "You're going to be a doctor," which is where the pre-med thing came from. So like I always knew I wanted to do something in medicine. But then like after shadowing, and then like my grandpa had a fall, and like we thought we were going to lose him, but he like came back, and the OT like helped him shave. Like just having that like personal connection to it, I was like, okay, yeah, this like it solidified my idea that it is what I wanted to do.
Thanks, Kelsey. All right, Julia.
I for the most part wanted to be an OT. I loved that it was like the more and more I learned about it, the more I was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do, because I loved being a preschool teacher, and I missed that a lot. But I wanted just a little more science behind it, and just like a little bit more one-on-one connection time, because that can be kind of hard as a teacher. You know, you're in a whole class. So I love those one-on-one connections. Honestly, I always loved the kids that had the more like behavioral concerns and things like that. I felt like I connected with them really well. And I love the holistic lens that OT has. You know, other professions, health professions, I feel like we're so complementary to each other and everything is so valuable, but I loved that OT considered everything and like what's important to you, and like empowering the person to get those things done that they need and want to get done. I think the only other thing I really wanted to do was to be the next Steve Irwin, because I loved Animal Planet growing up, still do. So I really want to incorporate like therapy animals somehow. But yeah, other than that, always OT.
Thanks, guys. And it looks like we're nearing the end of our session, so we'll do one more question. And that is, what was the interview process like for you guys getting into grad school, and how did you prepare for it?
So I guess I don't know how much I can touch on the interview process at Drake specifically. But I guess to prepare for it, I just did a lot of question practicing with, sorry if you can hear my dogs barking. I did a lot of practice with like answering questions with family members. I know I spent a lot of time with my boyfriend. He would just ask me questions, like typical interview questions, just making sure you were comfortable with those. And the more comfortable you get with it, when you walk in there, it'll seem like a breeze. But the interview day it's a long day. And Drake specifically, there's a written portion, there's an interview portion, there's a tour. And so it does seem like a lot, but I mean, everyone's in the same boat and everyone's nervous. So I know right away I walked in and everyone around me looked nervous, and we kind of bonded over that, and kind of helped us feel a little bit better. But yeah.
Thanks, Callie. All right, Kelsey.
I know exactly what Callie means when she says she's not sure exactly how much she can disclose about Drake's. So Drake does their interviews just a little bit differently, and everybody that interviews actually signs a piece of paper that says that they won't disclose how the interview is set up, which is why we're being vague. So it's not like we're like, we can't tell you, but I mean, we can't tell you, but Drake tries, and like, it's a fun way of doing an interview, I would say. They try and get more out of you than you would in like a traditional, like what you have in your head as an interview. But yeah, like for Drake specifically, it's a day long. Like I think we checked in at 8 and I think we were done close to like 4. But obviously like you're not sitting there getting asked questions for all of those hours. I mean, like Callie said, there was a tour, there's a panel, there's the actual interview portion, there's writing portion, there's like all sorts of things put into it. So it's not like you're, on edge the whole day. But to prepare for it, I mean, I did the same. I did a lot of, practicing those questions, like that dreaded, like, tell me more about yourself. That's like my least favorite interview question. So like, I just practiced a lot of those traditional interview questions a lot, and did a little like background on Drake and like, what they were about, all this stuff, just to kind of be prepared for if, any Drake specific questions did come up.
Well, thanks for sharing as much as you can about it. All right, Julia.
So CSU actually does not have an interview. I don't think that's going to change for the OTD, but I'm not positive, but I don't think they'll have it. But I did 2 different interviews, kind of all-day interviews for 2 other programs. And they sound a lot like what Callie and Kelsey were saying. And they were very stressful for sure. But it was also really fun to connect with everyone because I feel like people that are interested in OT are just generally very kind, open people. So that helped a lot. It's not like people are like, we can't talk, we're here for an interview. It was like very nice connecting with everyone. And I remember one of them had a really unique activity that I thought was so cool. It was like, you all got a piece of paper with instructions on it, and you were at this table with all these parts, and your little piece of paper said like, okay, you need to make something that's like taller than all the other pieces, or like 7 inches tall or whatever. You were building like essentially Legos, and everyone had like conflicting instructions on their paper. Like you weren't allowed to show each other your papers, but they all had conflicting instructions. So it was about like, how do you compromise with people that have kind of like very opposite goals of yourself for, maybe the Lego is like representing a client. So I thought that was really cool. And I think going into it, like Callie and Kelsey said, definitely, like kind of practicing those like interview questions, but I think also just getting into a good mindset before you go, because it's like, it is really just about like, how will you respond in these very like OT kind of situations that are hard to prepare for before? So I think just getting in like a good calm mindset beforehand of like, everyone's going through this together. Like they're not trying to pick anyone apart. Like it's really about showing your OT-ness. Like how would you respond cooperatively to these situations, and like show your creativity and show that you can work as a team and things like that.
Well, thanks, guys. That's the end of our time. So I just want to give a big thank you to our 3 great panelists. Thanks for taking time out of your day to help with this. It's been great. We wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. And for students, thanks for coming. If you just go to that website that I linked into the chat, you can go back to the main page, and then you can click on your perspective field for the admissions panels. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.